This video is not for persons under the age of 13. By watching this video, you are declaring that you are above 13 years of age. Hello and welcome to today's video of a watercolour depicting someone playing golf. As you can see, there's the ball, there's the player, the golfer, and there's the hole. But it's set in a scenic backdrop, so it's very interesting to have a look at how we do the backdrop as well as the foreground artwork itself. What am I going to use today? Well, I'll be using Old Faithful and one or two, possibly these are brushes that I will be using. What else have I got? I can't see them for a moment. I have got my experimental fan brush that has raking in it. We'll probably have a go at using that, and a detailing brush as well, but at the moment that's not at hand, so we'll get to that when we get to the painting. The paper, that's Hainemule cold press 300 GSM, that's £140, and it's not, that means that it's not smooth paper and it's not rough paper, it's right in the middle. So that's what we're going to be using today. Just before we make any further start, the paints I'm using are my White Night set that I've got here in the full pan format. So that's what we're going to use. I've just found the other brushes that I want to use. This is that modified fan brush or blender, and this is my pointed detail brush. Now if you haven't got one of these, something like a rigger will be just as good to do the job. Let's get started by getting this sky and background in place. Now I want a nice glow in the sky of yellowiness, so why not put yellow in the sky? There you go. But what I'm going to try and do is go and have that all the way as much as you can, like that. And just for good measure, slightly different yellow this time. Let that extend out this way. I'm going to, almost as though sunlight is, trying to avoid that if I possibly can, the person playing, and fanning it out just a bit more. And that will really help later on in the painting. And it doesn't matter at this end down here if it's a little bit dry brush, that's fine. So when this is all dry, that will make a really nice afterglow of colour behind the actual colour that we're wanting to do, which will be a bluey colour. I've now let that dry for a few minutes. I've mixed up a very deep dark blue, and I'm gonna try and avoid the centre bit like that. I'll think of it as like a glow of light there. So the outer edges I'm gonna but it's almost like a vignette. And then I'm going to get some more strong blue, a different blue this time though, and put bits of emphasis in there. You might not see all of this, but then we're going to soften these edges out and make it seem as though it is we don't want overly strong. And then again and there you go. Remember, there's going to be trees across there. I don't want to be making this sky too dark, because the background will create like a glow of light that will make the trees silhouette. So we don't want this to be too dark, because this band of trees will darken the painting up quite a lot. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. So I'm going to let this dry now, and we'll move on to the next part when it's dry. While this sky area is still a little bit wet, I'm going to use some tissue paper scrunched up and just see if we can tease out a little bit of texture and detail in it. Not a huge amount, but just enough to identify that there's bits of light coming into it. And again, keep thinking about this fanned kind of feeling, and then that will give you a greater sense of depth. That'll be okay, that. I just feel like I want to put a purpley blueness in that top part, so that's what we'll do. I'll get a bit of purpliness, some reddy colour, and make that like a reddy colour, and then keep adding blue until it's the colour I want it to be. That's a bit too much. Very aggressive, that blue. So we've got I'm just going to, in areas like that, just randomly. Obviously I'm not going to leave it like that, so what I'm going to do is like feather certain bits out. And again, it's that, try and make it look as though it's either coming towards you or going away from you. You've got to be careful not to make it too cloudy, because it is a sunny day, but it's got a bit of overcastness to it. But that'll be fine for now. We'll let that dry and then we'll start working our way around to other parts of the painting. Well, let's look at a background area around here. It's a lot of trees that go off into the distance but come up into the foreground, and in this area it's going to be very light, but as we get progressively closer to us it's going to get progressively darker, and that's the case there as well. So it's like a shape like that, and that's what we're going to paint. So what I would do here is I'm going to use that use up that purple that we made earlier, and add some black to it, and just create some sort of neutralised grey mud. Get some yellow in with it. There you go. Get some of that yellow. There you go. And now I've got from what I will do is I'll go dark into light there. And exactly the same this side. Oh, there's quite a bit there. I need a bit more. And then bring it down to there. Now while we've just want to make sure that I've got that and while we're in that environment, let's just make it quite clear that this bit is pretty much dark by just putting some pure I believe that's neutral tint or something like that. Actually it might be a Payne's grey, but it's a very dark colour whatever it is. But in this centre bit it just neutralises out to a very light grey, which is what I'm gonna and then let that blend naturally into a dark, and again exactly the same, just bring a natural feel to that there, and that emphasises that area of strong light in that area. And I know where I'm going to end up having to faff about with. There it is, I've got it. And just to emphasise the fact that some of these areas are a lot closer, I'm going to add a dark green to it, if I can get one mixed. I don't want to do it, come on. Mix green, mix. Get a bit of blue and a bit of yellow. Right, I'm happy with that. You know, I'm just gonna in that little bit of area there. I might have a tinge there as well. There's a little bit in that area that you can see that is ever so slightly green. and it gives it that kind of depth that you were looking for. Now there might be bits of light hitting that, so in certain areas while it's still wet we can do things like that. It is better if you've got a weirdly scrunched up piece of tissue, so it don't look artificial. Right, we'll let that dry for a bit. Let's have a look at doing the area of the painting that on a golf course is called the rough. Now that's the grassy area just before this area where the hole is, and that's the green. So, but this is generally slightly darker in colour than what this very highly tended after area of the golf course is. So we're going to put a green in, but we're going to do it by having a blue with a hint of green. And I'm going to try and do this a little bit dry brush if I can. And again we're going to hint at the idea that and leveling up when we get to there. And then I'm going to try and work around that because there's a person pushing the golf cart across there, and then see if I can get that to, there you go. Yeah. Try and bring that up like that, and then when we've done this, bits of things that come out like that. I'm going to introduce some of that there. So we've got some connectives. We don't want to be doing too much detail there. And then let's get some of that yellow again. Just in certain areas. Lighten that off a bit. Just softening some of these edges and then adding hints of whiter. That's it. Yeah. Because we don't want this to be too dark, because when we come to doing a later stage we don't want it to be overly dark, because we're going to add certain things later. But now what we can do is I'm going to get some yellow and then add that to a green and do other side. This is going to be a lot more lighter, but it's still going to have that same principle of as I think I made a little bit of a mistake there. I've gone over the ball. There you go, got it back. And just make this a kind of first coat. So we've got a slight differentiation between the rough here. See if I can get some blue in there. And this lighter area here, which is the green. And again, it's a matter of us leaving that to dry for a bit, and we'll get some more layering in it as it dries. Before I go any further, I'm just going to soften out this area to give it that little bit more of a glow, because I feel that there's, although it will be covered over by trees, a lot of that, I just want to make sure that there's a definite feel of a glow there, and soften the edges. So I've got a really nice fresh pot of water, and then I'm going to get as much as I can off the brush, the water, and we're just going to round these areas here. There we go. Bit more there. Naturally flow into some kind of hard edge, although this will be extended later anyway. And I think that is that sorted out. We'll put the trees on after that's dried. Let's get some foreground trees in now. I'm just going to start with a clump of trees there, and move away from that, and I'm going to use like a dark brown with a hint of blue in it. So we are talking quite dark now. So I can get a bit more brown in. So round here there seems to be some kind of bush or tree that goes like that. That's as much as I'm going to do with that, and then it kind of, I don't know, there's some area like that, and while we're here we'll put bits of tree in. I'll move over to here now, and I'm going to do a fairly similar thing, although there's not as much at this side, but I'm just going to get that area because that is very dark, that, and then as dry brush as I can get this. We'll start getting a little bit of foreground branch working, and finding where these trunks of the trees are. and we don't have to make it like, you know, absolutely solid. There's going to be little bits where it's just going to be blobs of darkness. And try and keep it slightly random. And this is where I'm actually doing an awful lot of dry brush work. We will go over this again and emphasise certain areas. And working his way into the centre. There's the branch, but what I'm going to do to speed the process up is I'm going to have a go at using this brush and see if I can get me paint into that. Bit of black, bit of brown, and I do think sometimes these brushes are a little bit big for the what you're doing, and you don't have the level of control you really ought to. But if you've got the right size, they're great. They cover a lot of ground very quickly. Let's see if we can. And I'm going as a side stroke like that. Yeah, I'm liking that. At the bottom they seem to like go down. As you get into the middle, the branch out sideways, and then it's a sprig at the top. And bits, you know, you might see like that. Let's go back over to this side and start building that area up. So it's quite dense there to start with. It's a bit like me. Found a member of denser. And then there's quite a bit of an expression of dark area up here, but again it's still spriggy and like that. So let's some of these trees are slightly farther away than what some of the other ones are, and we'll get an idea of where they are like that. A bit more a tree like that. And they're like spruce trees, these, most of them. Don't know whether that's exactly what they are, but that's what they look like. See if we can give the idea that there's some other things there. I see an area here that's quite dense. This is where I'm going to bring in me detailed calligraphy brush. I'm not trying to be hyper precise with that, because if you do that, it tends to make the tree look unrealistic. You're not going to see all of the branches like that, but another way to do it is, if you've got one of these, is do what I'm doing now. And that will give it a kind of variety. There's areas of branches there. They don't start kind of branching out until they get quite high, some of these, and most of the branching is up there like that. And that, now you can see, is the reason why I did that glow in the background. It's starting to like create an environment where you can see that glow. So I can get that to go like that. And several more bits like that. And you could go on for quite a while doing this, but I'm going to get to a point where I think, well, too much detail. I'll still try and make sure that as long as we've got like this idea that there's some sort of level of trees that are going like that across there, and there's a sense of interconnection with it. But what we do want to do is make sure that there's I just want to put some points here, because they're going to be important later on in the painting, because they're going to be where we're going to put shadows. What makes this image really interesting is the fact that it's extremely strong in its backlighting. That obviously, because of these trees, creates a fairly long shadow, which helps connect the painting up. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to start making the branches of the trees that are silhouetted in shadows. Using again a dark colour, a dark brown, we'll make a start with that. And what I want to do is like that. And just get the main branches in where they are, and just remember, as we get far away like that, it's gonna go like that, and then like that way. And bring that in there like that. Yeah, and we'll keep doing this. Just remember, it's not going to be perfectly straight because the grass itself and the ground isn't. so it's going to hit and miss, so that's why we want it to look like that. Make that slightly bigger, and as we get closer to us here, it's going to get wider, and I'm going to use a more dry brush effect. So see if I can get one over there. It's not as absolutely necessary there because it's a bit in the distance, that anyway. And what I will start doing now, because obviously they've got branches going off, the best thing to do is to get your paint and like that. And at this level, it's not that strong. You can see it. There might be the we're just going to try and create areas that got lighted in it, not got lighted in it, and that's going to be affected to some degree by having green in it as well. So we'll get some of that brown. The closer we get, the weaker that solution will be, so it will have more green in it. So it's going to be like a muddy colour. So round here for example, but I do want to be careful around that there. I'm not doing anything specific. I'm very randomly working here. So I'm mixing other greens in with it and browns just to give it interest as well. Areas where you're gonna get lighter areas, and areas where you're gonna get more green than brown and things like that. And we'll keep on at that side. And one thing I've not done, that area as well is quite heavily and intensely like that. And you can actually help the painting by giving it a kind of direction, that ground. Alright, and again there's areas here that could still be needed like that. And that gives you your feeling that, let's just get rid of that, that the light is hitting those trees and then creating a very long cast shadow. Now the only other cast shadow there is, because there's a long cast shadow on the trees, there's also going to be a long cast shadow on the guy. We've not painted that guy yet, whoever it is or whatever it is, or don't know, but we're going to put a provisional shadow in there. And also another place where there will be a shadow is and it will be a lot more exaggerated than normal, is underneath the ball. So I'm going to exaggerate that like that. Now what I do want to do before I go any farther, I just feel that I need to put a little bit more grey into this area here, because it's there isn't enough differentiation. So I'm gonna just a little bit, just to help it out a bit. And that will obviously go up into this wooded area that becomes infinitely more darker. And it gives you the idea that it too is part of that forest. Right. So again, we'll let this all settle and dry, and then we'll concentrate on the golfer and the ball and the hole. I just realised that I need to put my other golfer in that top corner, so really that's just going to be a bit of a slightly coloured silhouette really. So where should I put him? I think I put him round about here somewhere, didn't I? And he's got his caddy there or whatever it is. You can't really see what that is, but you can imagine that that's somebody there in the background. So onto our main golfer person, whatever you want to call him. So I'm just going to do the face first and all the skin tones. Give that time to give that time to dry a bit, and then I think I'm going to give him very dark blue trousers, I think. And again, because he's got strong light in the background, he's not going to be particularly light. There's only going to be small highlighted areas that he will have. So I'm going to make a mixture of an orange and a deep red, a dark red, and I'm going to be really careful because I'm trying not to touch that flesh area there, and we'll go like that, and then I might actually leave that bit white as though it's a red shirt with a white sleeve, and I'm going to give him white shoes, but he's going to have nice matching laces of red. And just because we're feeling like matching is a good thing, I'm going to give him a hat that's blue, because that goes with his trousers. How matching them are. There you go. With a should I? With a cap bit that comes this way. And no, I've fluffed it. I should have left it. and this is the reason why you be patient. So I'm going to leave that dry, and in fact actually that's about as far as I'm going to take that. The only other thing to do now is get a very dark colour and identify the club, and just like that. Going to be areas that are quite dark underneath his arm there, after his head there. I think that would be quite dark as well. I don't want to be too faffing about, and this is where we can connect the shadow. Just get that like that, and then we've got that going around there. Now that brings us to the ball. Now the ball is generally white, more often than not, but I'm going to do this bit here in slight shadow. I think that needs to be a bit more. That there's slightly shadowed, and then what I will do is put little round dots on it. And it gives you the idea that it's a close-up golf ball, as they've got little pimples, don't they? Only other thing to do now is identify this. That's quite dark. And then, strangely enough, the inside is white, but because it's got not an awful lot of light, it kind of is ever so slightly dark. So there's your hole. The only other thing I want to really do now is just get a dark colour and make sure that we emphasise the edge of the green. But I'm not gonna do a line that's overly strong, and I want to break it up if I can. Just right, so that's got a rough idea where his line's going to be, but in certain places I'm just gonna like get rid of it, so it just gives you an idea that there's an edge. So just one or two more bits to do. I'll just re-emphasise that. In this area I'm just gonna do that. Give that a bit of a darkness there. And that's your man done. Okay, we're at the end of the painting now. I could do little bits of things with it, but I just feel it's at a stage where it's mostly completed, and I don't want to overdo it and then ruin the painting. So what we've been able to do, we've been able to create a glowy background that's offset by these dark silhouetted trees that are projecting a shadow that's helping to create a sense of depth. And we've got our golfer here, who's obviously at a distance from us, and the ball and the hole is comparatively bigger than what the player is, but that's all to do with how far something is away, and that helps again with the sense of depth. So I'm hoping that this has given you a few ideas on especially how to go about doing realistic trees with the tools that we've used, and also one or two other techniques that we've picked up on the way. So thank you for being here with us on this video, and we'll see you again in our next video when we do it. So bye for now.